Here we go.
This meeting is being recorded.
Wow, we get a little voice that tells us this is being
Yeah,
recorded. Did you hear that?
nice.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, anyway, welcome to Spiritual Awakening Talk and Stories. My name is Reverend Melissa Kennedy, and I have a guest here with me tonight. His name is Jeremy, and we've been friends for a while. And it's funny how we meet people along our journey and we click with them, but we don't realize that we will have spiritual experiences that we need to share and that we grow with these people that we meet along the way. And Jeremy and I have this story together. And that is the mission of this podcast, to bring people together to share their spiritual awakening stories, the stories that they might be afraid to share, fear of being ridiculed, of being misunderstood, but not on this podcast, because we're here to talk about things that are maybe not of the mainstream, but they're coming more and more of the mainstream, maybe even extraterrestrial topics or, spiritual
Mhm.
topics or things that, that people might say, oh, people think I'm strange if I talk about this, but really we're the normal ones. It's just we've been suppressed. So um, I just want to give you a little background information about Jeremy. He is a very gifted and talented writer. He's a comedian. He actually was a stand-up comedian for many years, knows very famous people, and it's just really cool. And I had read something that he wrote on Facebook, and I just loved it. And I don't know, we just commented back and forth in a post, and we were instant friends. So, with that being said, Jeremy, I'm going to give you the floor and I'm going to let you share any stories that you think might help others along their spiritual journey.
Okay. um, I think the one that I had thought about talking about was probably the one uh, thing that happened to me many years ago. That was I don't really see how you could look at it uh, as too many different things. I mean, to me, it definitely was pretty specific in what was happening and who or what was responsible for it. But I was adopted, and it was not a very good situation. I was basically on my own when I was really small, really young, and if you look at kind of how the world is today, and you look back at that time, it's definitely society's definitely in a state of decay right now. But at that time, it wasn't as bad, but it was still pretty bad. And there were a lot of predators. A young person out in the world alone without any guidance or protection. Um, you know, you're kind of like blood in the water for sharks, and I definitely was. Um, and I think I had tried to fill my life that void where I didn't get the things emotionally and that I needed in all the wrong ways, which most of us do. And one evening I don't remember, I was downtown Nashville and hanging out in a car and probably waiting to meet some people I probably shouldn't have been hanging out with.
Mhm.
But my life had just gotten just crazy.
How old were you?
Um, I was probably about 17,
Okay.
17, maybe 18, probably 17 though. And I, excuse me, I was sitting on a park bench. Actually, it was at night, waiting to meet some friends later. And this was a place where a lot of people hung out for a lot of different reasons, none of them probably that good.
Hmm.
And I remember uh, sitting on this bench alone. There were no cars around, there was nobody around. Um, and all of a sudden, I sensed that somebody was behind me. It took a couple of seconds for it to really register, but there was somebody, which kind of startled me, being that there were no cars, there was nobody around. You know, it was there was nobody around in this area. I was alone.
Mhm.
And this person came around, and I remember very clearly it was a man, jet black hair, dressed very nicely. And I was actually sitting on I guess like a park bench, picnic table type thing.
Mhm.
He came around the side. He was just behind me all of a sudden, and
Mhm.
he came around the side. And he asked if he could sit down, and I was like, okay, you
Mhm.
know. And he did, and he immediately started asking me questions like, "Why are you doing this to yourself? Why are you out here? You know, why are you meeting these kinds of people? Why are you?" I remember one thing specifically. Why are you putting that stuff in your nose?
Mhm.
Which
Mhm.
really blew my mind, because at that moment there was nothing like that happening. Of course, it was happening a lot at that point in my life.
Mhm.
Um, and he just proceeded to ask me a lot of questions like that, and this conversation just kind of started. And normally I wouldn't speak to anybody that I didn't know, especially asking me something like that. Normally I would have gotten up and been gone, you know.
Yeah, like how did he even know, right? To say
Right, right. Well,
yeah.
I mean, he called me by my name, which that was the start of. That's when I knew something was really. It kind of course, I was freaked out. It was very unsettling and odd, but
Mhm.
comforting, if that makes
Yes.
any sense.
I did. I felt that like you felt comfortable. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
didn't feel any threat. There was none of those inner alarms were going off, which kept me alive, I have to say.
Mhm. Mhm.
Uh, so we probably talked for 10 or 15, maybe 20 minutes. And I couldn't really answer his questions because the answers were no good. I didn't have any good excuses, really.
Mhm.
Um, but it really made me think. And I remember him saying something to the effect of, uh, you deserve better than this, and you need to give yourself the chances that you haven't been given, or something like that.
Mhm.
And the next thing I know this is going to sound insane, but this is the truth. It,
Mhm.
it was maybe 15 or 20 minutes later, and I was in my car driving downtown Nashville.
Mhm.
And when I realized that I wasn't on the park bench anymore, that I was in my car, I remember there was a Wendy's. I had to turn in and do a U-turn to go back toward my apartment.
Mhm.
So between me sitting on the park bench and getting in my car, there's no memory of that. But I
Mhm.
remember the conversation very sharply. And what was weird about it was, after we had that conversation, I went home that night, went to bed, but there was some kind of change, a shift in me had
Mhm.
happened because of it, I think.
Mhm.
Um, so between that period of going home that night, uh, I had met my agent and started doing stand up pretty regularly at that point.
Mhm.
And my agent was invited to a restaurant grand opening in downtown Nashville. So all of the society, whoever's the who's who of Nashville, were there. It was a very big deal, actually.
Mhm.
Um, I remember we're standing in a room with probably 200 people, and they're doing a champagne toast around this huge oblong table. And my agent, who I'm standing with, she's beside me. We're kind of in the center of one side of the table, and I look over, and directly across from us, at the very back of the room, was that man
Mhm.
looking at me and smiling, just
Ooh,
smiling.
I get chills.
So I go, we do the toast, and I'm telling Mickey, my agent, I'm like, I have to go. There's somebody I know. I have to go say hi.
Mhm.
And not even 30 seconds later, he's nowhere to be found. He's not in the room. He's not in the restaurant. He's not outside. Gone.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to believe that was an angel.
Was. It was definitely an earth angel and very strong energy I felt with that. And I have to ask you,
Mhm.
did you notice anything strikingly different about this man that was not what, thinking back now, like his eyes, his features, anything about him that just it's so different than if you just meet a person, like a just
Oh,
about your day.
yeah, the whole thing, his presence, everything about him was different.
Mm-hmm.
Eyes that went right through you,
Mm-hmm.
piercing eyes,
Mm-hmm.
the I think I don't even know how to put this into words, but his presence was so huge, but so nothing at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Like he could have filled a room, but you also wouldn't have known he was there.
Yep.
If that, I don't even know if that makes sense, but
Yeah, it does. Mm-hmm.
uh, yeah, almost too beautiful to even be real.
Yep.
Like physically, like perfect and just, you
Mm-hmm.
know.
Yep.
But there was definitely this warmth that I don't care how great the nicest, most warm, most loving human being is, there
Mm-hmm.
was an energy about him that was not human,
Yeah.
not typical, not anything I've experienced in this plane, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. I'm just hearing when you're telling me this, he's saying to me, you're special. And so you actually are a very spiritual person and you do see things that are, aren't ordinary, like what we see with our physical eyes. So you have that ability. And I feel like I want to ask you if you've ever seen him again or if you have felt that energy around you.
I've definitely felt it. I've
Mm-hmm.
not seen him again,
Mm-hmm.
but I've felt it. I've sensed it a couple of times.
Mm-hmm.
But
I feel
yeah,
that. I feel
it,
that.
it
It's a
it's like he
different
makes
vibration,
himself
right?
known when he needs to. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, it definitely was an angel, definitely. Very
Yeah.
strong
I don't
energy.
know what else it could have been at
Yeah,
all.
that's was. Wow, that's an amazing story. You never told me that one before.
I haven't really told anybody that one before.
Wow,
That
thank
was
you.
something that happened that I knew that night that something had happened that wasn't uh based on this in this dimension,
Right,
whatever,
right,
it was something I couldn't explain. And if I couldn't explain it, then I wasn't going to tell anybody because, like you said before, we get ridiculed or people think you're crazy or you're lying or,
right.
but I know that it happened. I've never forgotten it. I see it as clearly as if it were yesterday
Yeah,
and still feel that energy when I remember it.
yeah.
And it brought change
Yes.
to my life at a period
That's
where
mm-hmm,
I wasn't going to make those changes,
mm-hmm,
probably wasn't able,
mm-hmm.
and there was nobody around that was going to do it. So
Right.
I think divine intervention.
Yeah, definitely. And I have to say, I know a lot of people and you see a lot of things in life. The more you go through life, the more you think, oh my gosh, what more can I see? But I always say
Yeah.
to everybody I know, like if I bring you up, I always say Jeremy's like probably one of the most morally correct people that I know. Like your inner compass is so, even though you're funny, you could be sarcastic, all those really great things, but your moral compass, like you have such an inner guide, that guides you to be such a great person. Are you still with me, Jeremy? I hope I didn't lose you. Okay, I kind of lost you there for a minute. I
I
can't
think
hear.
we froze. I think we
We
froze
did.
there for a
You
second.
you weren't
Okay.
like this, so
Can you hear me?
but yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I just want to say that about you. So, I feel like you are a very special person. And I just felt an immediate connection with you the first time we ever connected. And everything that
I
I
feel the
do,
same way about you.
yeah, and everything that I do spiritually is because of the angels. So it's really amazing that for my first guest on this is my very first, podcast that I'm going to actually post, on my YouTube channel, and that you brought an angel story, because I always say that if it weren't for the angels, I could do none of this, because I feel energy so much and I would get so overwhelmed. And I feel like people should know that energy is something that we're not taught that we can feel. But I feel like
Mhm.
a lot of people do things in their lives because they don't realize that they pick up on other people's energy, or perhaps they pick up on
Oh,
the collective consciousness of the planet's energy, and they feel like it's them, there's something wrong with them. And I just wanted to mention that because I think it's so important. And I think sharing stories like this is so important because angels are real. Some people
yep.
see them. We don't see them all the time. We can see them in many different forms. They can be an animal. They can be somebody that you meet at the checkout line at the grocery store. They can be the homeless person. It can be just that something that brings you into the reality of teaching you a lesson in that moment that you wouldn't
Yep.
necessarily have received had an angel not just decided to into your life. So,
Yep.
yeah.
And we've definitely had the animal angels around us, both of
Yes.
us.
Yeah, we definitely do. And, that's what brought us together, really, the animals. So we have animals and
Right?
animals and angels for me, that's my big thing because back when
Yeah.
we met probably, a decade ago, we've known each
At
other that
least.
long. Yeah. And it was the Frenchies, the French bulldogs that brought us together. And I remember
There you go.
before I started reading, like officially, like giving animal communications, like I always knew like I could communicate with animals, but I find myself in those groups connecting with people's dogs. And I would like send them a message, your dog is like blah blah blah. And they'd be like, how did you know that? And I'm like, this is
Yep.
normal for me. And
Yep.
yeah, so and we kind of had that connection with Bella too, your Frenchie that
Oh God.
yeah, 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 that whole story. But
She was definitely an angel.
yeah, she was. That all animals are, especially our animal companions. They do for us what people can't do. So they do stand in that place of being an angel for us. Sometimes they can be
Yeah.
a little pain in the butt, but they can
Every
still
now
be,
and then.
yeah, but they still are our earth angels. So
Yeah.
I was gonna ask you, did you have any other story that you would like to share?
Hmm. Maybe not right now. I'd have to
Okay,
think about it. That was my big one.
all
That was the
right.
one that I've never really talked that much to any. I don't
Yeah,
think I've ever really talked to anybody about. But
yep.
um, there have definitely been times where talking about our animal companions, where with Bella, 15 years I had with her. So there were definitely times where uh, I would feel things from her, experience things through her, with her,
Hmm.
that were not. They were coming from another dimension, another place, or something. I mean, that I think about when you think about God and you think about or source or whatever people call it, or and you think about the angels. I mean, that's like the perfect love,
Hmm.
and that's what you get from these little guys.
Yeah.
It's the perfect love. There's no condition. It's
Mhm.
they don't care how you look in the morning. They don't care how you're
Right.
dressed. They don't care how much money you make. It's
Right.
just 24/7. It's always there. It's never less. It's always
Hmm.
powerful. And
Hmm.
so I think as an extension to talking about that angel experience I had. I mean, that might have been like one of the first, but I've definitely had a lot since. They've just all had 4 legs.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep. Yep. Definitely. There are healers, there are confidants, and sometimes we don't even need words. You know,
no.
animals, people don't understand, like animals are the most telepathic creatures, like they read
Oh,
our language, our thoughts, our everything. They know what we're gonna do before we do it.
oh,
And and I have to say, I have a really funny story that I had a Pomeranian before I got Molly, and it got to the point where I spelled things, and then she figured out spelling. She knew words spelled, because if we had to do something so she wouldn't be right there, then I had to go to Pig Latin. I am not kidding you. And she was catching
been
on
there,
the spot too.
been there.
Yeah. So people always say to me, like when I do an animal communication, do they know what I'm thinking? And like I take very detailed notes. And the animal, it's almost like they saw the whole communication before it even happened. And before they can ask me the question, it's right there. I'm like, that was the next thing in my notes. And everybody's like silent, and the things that they say, they answer people's questions before they even have a chance to ask me. It's already there in my notes.
Yeah.
So so animals are like, they're not just those little furry companions. They are so much more.
So much more.
Yeah,
So much more. I have
yeah,
2 of them laying right here beside of me snoring. So
yeah, yeah. And the good thing about animals is they go on just like we do. They go into spirit just like we do. They have the ability to incarnate again just like we do if we choose. So the more that people focus on we're different, the more we should really be focusing on how alike we really are, with animals. So
yes,
yep, yep. And if you're an animal person, I always say thank God for animals, because I can't even imagine what life would be like without them.
oh, I don't need. I could no, no.
Yeah,
Wouldn't
yeah.
be possible for me. I don't think. You
Yep.
know.
Mm-hmm. Yep. All right. So, with all of that being said, I think that we will end this first official Spiritual Awakening Talking Stories podcast with my guest, Jeremy. Oh, and I also want to mention that Jeremy is also studying to be a certified herbalist. He has a passion to help animals, to heal people, and he's taking this to the next level to help people and animals. So there they are. You will
There
you
they
will
are.
you'll come on again, and you'll be able to tell the people more about how you'll be able to help as you progress along your journey. So you'll come back again, and you'll have another story come to you, and I know you'll want to come back on again.
Definitely,
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah. So thank you very much for joining me tonight. I really appreciate you, and I love you to the moon and back forever and ever and always in this lifetime and beyond.
And
And
beyond.
yep. And I want to thank everybody for watching tonight, and have a good night or a good day, or wherever you are on the earth. We wish you light, love, peace, and blessings of all kinds. Bye bye now.
Yes. Bye bye.